Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me ask you, what is Unitarian Universalism? By that I mean, what does it mean to say one is a Unitarian Universalist? What do we believe? What do we stand for? What do we think? Some UUs rely on the principles to explain themselves to a non-UU. Currently, the principles we hold to are articulated in the UUA Bylaws in Article 2. The problem is remembering them all. There are at least 7, with an 8th about anti-racism that has been adopted by many congregations in recent years. Most of us can remember the first principle being about the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and we often remember the last principle being about the interdependent web. If pressed, we may also usually know somewhere in the middle are principles about a search for truth and meaning, justice, and the right of conscience. Fewer UUs will remember the sources, which are in another section of Article 2. Although most of us know something of the Bible as one source, because our denomination did start as 2 Christian sects, the Unitarians and the Universalists. Insert a joke about Harvard Divinity School here. Along with the Bible, we claim the Torah, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas, and others. In addition to scriptures and literature, we claim scientific knowledge as a source. And to me, most importantly, is direct experience, as we poetically state, quote, of that transcendent mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, end quote. Before I became an atheist, when I considered myself a deeply religious and spiritual person, well, I guess I still do, but this was before the atheism, I would say that I didn't need faith because I had direct experience. Back then, my entire focus was to expand my consciousness, to align with and become one with the universe. It is a profound thing, and to me, as instructive as any scripture. Which all goes to show you that indeed each of us is on a unique journey, and our forged path is as individual as each of us are. But what do we hold in common, if anything? We specifically don't have a creed, no pat little answers to the big questions. A former minister from here at U2C3, Phil Douglas, who was also a biblical scholar, was fond of saying that revelation is not sealed. In other words, the Almighty can still speak to us today. How do we explain what we think and believe now, here, in this day and age? The bylaws of the UUA, our governing documents, have a number of articles and rules. Article 1 is just the name of the UUA. So really, the first place where we lay out what we are about is Article 2. Article 2 explains our principles and purposes. It's always been wordy and a little clunky, but it is the only place where we try to capture the beauty and majesty that is the heart of our religion. What most UUs don't know is that the bylaws specifically ask us to revisit this section every generation, every 20 years. The last attempt at a big overhaul in the early aughts failed. You see, revisions have a high threshold, a 2/3 majority in order to pass. Now it's been nearly 40 years since we've made any significant changes to those words that define us and say exactly what Unitarian Universalism means. General Assembly, the annual gathering where UUs do their work of figuring out what it means to be a UU, charged a commission, as Article 2 directs, to look at this part of our governing documents and do whatever they wanted. The commission could throw the whole thing out or keep most of it and make changes at the margins or forge some middle path of compromise. But the charge to the commission made clear that none of these words or phrases are too precious never to be revised. Indeed, revelation is not sealed. We must make room for what is greater than ourselves to make itself known with new voices and new ideas and new ways of speaking and being. This is where the work of our religion, being non-creedal, comes to fruition. What the commission has come up with is both very different and yet retains much of what was and still speaks to us. The biggest change proposed is the medium. Rather than written prose, the commission revealed a graphic piece of artwork, a simple flower with the word love at its center in a flaming chalice. Then each of the petals of the flower being a single word and a color to help us remember our most treasured values. Isn't that lovely? Of course, there is a lot of discussion on exactly which values are the most important. We wouldn't be UUs without that. As I write this, the words reason and peace are being discussed in addition to the Commission's original 6, which are justice, interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, and generosity. The Commission did also come up with a longer version, adding clarifying and defining language to each of these words. I suspect few of us will memorize these longer phrases, but they do sound good and will be good to come back to. I'd like to read the explanation of each of these 6 values. They are interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. With reverence for the great web of life and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality, and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Justice. We work to be a diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregation, our association, and society at large. Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Finally, equity. We declare that each person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. Hopefully you can see where the best parts of our principles have been retained, but they have also incorporated new ways of expressing these same values. Regardless of what happens with the Article 2 Commission, pass or fail, I encourage everyone to read the proposal. It behooves us to know what we stand for, what we hold in common, why we can speak with one voice in harmony through our many different individual instruments on different journeys from different backgrounds. May the blessings be.